noise!
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. Brought to you by funkinstuff.net, this is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist, creative arts journalist, and multimedia pro. Whether you're watching the video version of this show or the audio-only podcast version, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in this show. If you enjoy this programming, there are several ways to help support Truth and Rhythm, as well as contribute to further enhancements and expansion, plus get some sweet perks and rewards in the process. First, subscribe to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Second, join Truth and Rhythm's new membership program through Patreon, which features 3 tiers for truth believers, truth seekers, and truth crusaders. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkinstuff.net. At that site, which is loaded with awesome content, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk, shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funkin' Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. Sponsorship opportunities are available as well. Contact me directly at scottg@funkinstuff.net. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm.
I am pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership original Stone City Band guitarist Tom McDermott. Playing rhythm and solos behind Rick James in studio and on stage, he appeared in all of James's late 1970s and 1980s albums, as well as 3 Stone City Band records and several others by Teena Marie, Mary Jane Girls, Val Young, and others. A long list of hits from those recordings includes You and I, Mary Jane, Bustin' Out, Love Gun, Big Time, Square Biz, Give It to Me Baby, Superfreak, Standing on the Top, Candyman, My House, All Night Long, 17, Cold-Blooded, Lovergirl, and Loosey's Rap. McDermott continues to thrill audiences with Stone City Band performances that keep James's legacy, his amazing catalog, and punk funk alive and well. Tom, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. So good to have you. Thanks for joining the show, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great.
Where are you today?
Today, I'm in Tampa, Florida. And I moved here from LA about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's becoming to get like LA, crowded, housing prices going through the roof, and the traffic, So I feel quite at home.
I know the feeling. I came out to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2006 from Los Angeles, and people are like, wow, it must have been a huge culture shock. But there's so many transplants, and it's gotten so crowded that it's not so much of a culture shock.
Right. Yeah. It's people are moving all over, A lot of people are moving out of LA. I know a few friends of mine have gone and left. It's just too much for them. I miss it. I miss some of the clubs down there, and like the Baked Potato. Loved going there,
Wow, that's funny. The last interview I just did, I interviewed Cornelius Mims, bass player, and he's out in LA, and he referenced the Baked Potato when he was coming up, how much he liked going to shows there. So it's funny.
Yeah. It's definitely a good hang there. It's pretty iconic place to hear good music.
Yeah, that's one of the things I miss for sure, Tom, is just the ubiquitous music in Los Angeles. You know, you can just go almost any day of the week and see somebody, and there's, every tour stops there.
Yeah,
Charlotte's not quite like that.
right. Yeah, Tampa is kind of hit and miss too,
But you got the Super Bowl champs at least.
Yeah, that's right. That's
from
right.
last year anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to LA with the champs this year. But man, impressive catalog you've been part of. And again, thank you for having you. And, going to jump back and test your memory banks a little bit. So hopefully that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So you're from Buffalo originally? Is that where you're from? Or
No, I'm actually originally from California.
Okay.
Southern California, Burbank area. It's right next to Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. That's where they have all the studios. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you make that, Buffalo connection? How did that happen?
Well, I was playing in a band, and the keyboard player, his wife at the time, Lisa, she was singing with Rick, and they needed a guitar player, and they came out to LA and started rehearsing. And she said, "Hey, why don't you check it out?" I did. Went over there and met Rick and at his house in his mansion, and met him, and it just worked out after that. Played a little bit, and it was like instant family.
Wow.
That's basically how it went.
I'm asking more details about that, but I do want to know how you first got into guitar and what your experiences were prior to Rick.
Yeah, basically I got into guitar probably about 15, 16. I loved jazz. I loved Wes Montgomery, Joe Pass, all the jazz greats. And then I started thinking, well, if I want to play and make money, I got to learn commercial music. So I started that, and going in and out of top 40 bands, playing the club circuit, and that's something that a lot of people don't get to do these days. And basically that, just going from there to another band, just getting experience all the way. I played with Little Anthony. That was kind of a trip because we would go out on the weekends and then fly back home. And that was kind of sort of like the edge of a big break, But that lasted a while. Then, original bands and stuff like that, It's just always trying to keep working and making yourself better.
Were you kind of self-taught, or did you have lessons? Or
Yeah, I had lessons. I took lessons from a jazz player, and basically self-taught. I took some reading lessons, but basically, it's pretty much on your own after that. After you get a foundation, you listen to records, transcribe solos, and pick up ideas, little things here and there. Plus, being in top 40 bands, you had to learn the tunes. And it wasn't like there was a sheet music. It was like you had to go put the needle down to the record, slow it down if you have to, and just pick up all the parts that you could, That was really a great way to train.
It's funny you mentioned Little Anthony, because I have Pepe Willie coming on the show next week, and he actually, when he was young, he had a uncle, I think, that worked for Little Anthony, and
oh yeah,
that's how he got exposed to the music industry before he went on to doing a studio and mentoring Prince. So,
wow,
yeah, Little Anthony has some big ties, I guess.
Yeah. I guess he's still doing shows in Las Vegas, from what I hear.
Wow.
I'd like to run into him again. Actually, I got fired from that gig because we we were on a break, and everything we did was cash, right? You get paid by cash, not a check. So I went down to the unemployment office when we had break, thinking I'd be able to collect unemployment while in between gigs. He found out about that, and he just flipped. What the hell are you trying to do? Get me in trouble? So he said, we'll have to, we'll just have to cut it here, take your losses, go, So yeah, that's what happened.
How old were you?
I was like 19 or 20, didn't know any better.
Tom, who were some of your biggest influences and heroes on guitar and maybe just musically in general?
Big influences. It comes to mind Eddie Van Halen, number one. He's just like Jimi Hendrix, all the greats. Basically Hendrix and Eddie, and like a lot of the R&B players, the studio musicians. Like Ray Parker. It just anybody I could pick up anything little here, lick here and there. It was always. Whoever's playing,
Did you get to see Van Halen back in the day?
Yeah, I did back in the day. In fact, I got front row seats at the Forum, and I think in 1981, and I was just like so stoked. I got to meet Eddie backstage after the show, and yeah, that was like I was in heaven. It's like, oh my God, there's my hero,
Did you attempt to do some of that crazy finger picking stuff and tricks he was doing?
No, he didn't show me any of those, but I figured some of that stuff out later on, because when I first heard the Van Halen record, it was like everybody else. It was like, what the heck is going on? Who is this? What is he doing? What is that? And it was just something so original. He just exploded everybody's mind.
So did you play with other people that any names we might recognize prior to Rick?
Not really. No, just local bands, around the LA area.
And so about how old were you when was it Levi Ruffin who was the keyboard player that you mentioned?
Yeah, Levi, is a keyboard player, and yeah, he's won Oscars, and we're still doing stuff. We just a couple weeks ago we did the Soul Train cruise. That was kind of a trip. We played a couple of shows on there, and we have a gig in Seattle in June. So we're still working. We're still putting it out there.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good, keeping it alive for sure. When you first encountered Rick, what was your first impression?
He was really nice. He was really warm. He shook my hand, gave me a hug, and said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" And yeah, it was like instant. Like we knew each other for a while. He was really warm, a nice person.
And what had he done to that point? What year are we talking here?
He had just finished his second album, Bustin Out, and was going to start rehearsing for a tour. And that's when I kind of got the call for that,
So how familiar were you with, the hits he had to that point?
I was familiar with Mary Jane. That was a big hit at the time. And as soon as I heard that he needed a guitar player, I got the records and just started, shedding on the parts, so I'd go in there and know what I'm doing,
And you didn't mention any real, funk type acts. Were you into funk at that point, or?
Yeah, I was into Shaka Khan, Average White Band, a lot of the R&B stuff. Excuse me, James Brown, Temptations. That was like, yeah, it was like let's do a lot of R&B growing up too.
Okay, that's making sense. Did you feel like more comfortable, rhythmic, playing rhythm guitar or taking leads, or equal, or what was your favorite?
Basically, it's equal. It's pretty much all the same. It's guitar to me, whether it's a solo or fills or playing chords. It's just it's all part of guitar. So that's what makes it nice. You don't have to just stick to notes like a saxophone player or a trumpet player. You got chords to do. You got double stops or whatever. There's a lot of opportunities to make the guitar sing.
Right. And also whatever the song calls for. But
Right.
But some guys, not everyone has the rhythm chops, to be in that groove. It's definitely a different animal from soloing. So,
Right.
but you clearly could do both.
Yeah. I enjoy doing both.
Yeah. And what were the other guys in the band like what were your first impressions of the other Stone City Band guys when you first encountered them?
Levi was actually one of the first band members I met. He was super warm. We've always gotten along. That's my brother, and he was, and all the other guys were, real nice also, really warm hearted. And, yeah, that's, it just made it so comfortable to be in a band because nobody was stuck up or had an attitude or anything like that. They're all down home people.
And you had the Hughes brothers, and you had Levi, and who else rounded out the
Oscar Alston, the bass player. Danny Lamel was a sax player, and Erskine Williams, keyboard player also.
And did it become immediately apparent that these guys had a special chemistry, or what did you feel?
It did. When I started, we started doing rehearsals. It was definitely a chemistry that I was able to adapt to, and we just gelled. That's a good way of putting it.
And did Levi pretty much lead things, or did Rick lead the band?
Levi was kind of like, he's generally he's the boss of the band, I would say. He would he's basically our leader, because he was like, I guess it's kind of like the go-between between the band and Rick. He was just that little thing that would always make him us look towards him.
He seems like a character, Levi, that I think also has a wicked sense of humor, maybe.
Yeah. He's got he still has that sense of humor. He's definitely, he'll get you, he'll keep you in stitches. That's for sure.
And did you first perform on a record or first went on a show?
It was basically we on tour. It was pretty wild. One of the first few gigs we did, I remember it was like at the the Coliseum, LA Coliseum, and it was like 100,000 people were there, and it was just, you could walk out on stage, and I'm just like looking like, oh my God, look at all these people. I wasn't nervous or anything, but it was just breathtaking, because never playing to that many people before. That was pretty exciting. It's just amazing. A wall of people on the grounds, in the stands.
Wow. So was that like the 79 Funk Fest?
Yeah, it was. I guess with all the other bands, I really didn't know the other bands, at the time. I knew George Clinton, but we didn't get to hang out because got there, it was pretty coordinated. We got on stage, walked off, and then went back to the hotel.
Well, and that was the first show or one of the first shows?
That was one of the first shows that really stuck out the most. One of the first shows we did was in Fresno. I know that. And it was at not quite a big venue, but it was at a good sized venue, maybe 5,000 people.
I didn't see that show at the Coliseum, but I did see the 1980. I think it was 80. I saw Rick James at the Forum and also at the Long Beach Arena right around that time. And man, the band was so tight, and he had such charisma. Great show. I mean, as good as there was at that time. What can you tell the people about, Rick in terms of what he brought to the stage at that time?
Yeah, he was like 100 miles an hour with his energy. He would, thinking back on it now, he just performed like no other. He really had the crowd going. He really had them pumped up all the time, and he really interacted with them. And it was just, I don't think I've seen a show like that, where somebody can just take the audience and hold them for 90 minutes to 2 hours, and that's the way he was. He was just so passionate about what he was doing. He was completely exhausted at the end of the night, but yeah, he was amazing.
And did he pick things like costumes, or how much into the details did Rick get?
I think he did. He had a costume designer. I think in like the 1980 tour, where we had the space boots and the sparkly outfits on. And then the following tour, it was basically like we wore what we want, which I like that. I don't know. I just liked it better. I feel more comfortable wearing what I want to wear, as opposed to all the uniform stuff,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were all the other band members from Buffalo, or?
Yeah. They're all from Buffalo. Oscar, Lannis, Nate, Levi Erskine, Danny Lamel. He's from LA area. So, majority of the band was from Buffalo.
So, but you had one like LA brother, basically, of the group.
Yeah,
someone
right.
Was West Coast too.
Right. Yeah. So I felt at home.
And what kind of direction did you get in terms of, hey, Tom, really go out and take the spotlight here, or lay back here, or, what kind of direction did you get?
He basically let me do it myself. He never said, don't do this or don't do that, or do this or that. It was basically, I took it on my own, whether walking the stage or whatever, he just wanted to be me, and like the other musicians also to be themselves,
When did you first meet Teena Marie?
Teena, God, it was, I think, I don't know. It was like right around the time she was doing her Irons. Was it the name of that album?
Irons in the Fire?
Yeah, Irons in the Fire. Yeah. Irons in the Fire. It was right around that time where she was working on that album, and we did some tracks for her,
And what was your impression of her? Because she's one of my all-time favorite female singers, and also I don't think she gets enough credit for being so multi-talented.
Yeah, definitely. She was awesome. Funny you say that, because yesterday I got some tracks of the original Fire and Desire, and I was listening to her voice, and I was just, oh my God, it's like so organic, so perfect, like an angel. It's just unbelievable. She never got her due, as far as I'm concerned. She was just a very creative person, and just a pleasure to work with.
And so much coming out of that tiny frame,
Yeah. It's amazing, that little stick of dynamite, man. She was awesome.
Yeah. So on the touring front, I got to bring up the infamous double bill with Prince when he was just coming up. I've asked a lot of people that have been on the show about that, and some that have been part of that tour, like Matt Fink and different people from that band, and I think when Lenise and those guys were on a while back, asked them about it. But what was your impression of that tour and that experience?
When Prince came on, it was interesting because he was pretty innovative, with his costumes on stage, and definitely, absolute talent, and it was kind of funny because Rick didn't really like him. I don't know why. Maybe he felt a competition or whatever, but there was like this little clash, I don't know. Maybe that was it. The competition. Maybe it was, but it was a Prince. I was talking to him for a few times, and nice guy, didn't no ego and just a genuine dude.
Well, speaking of the competitive, environment, then, I mean, Prince was competitive with his own band at the time, like the tour after that, I think it was when he decided they were too hot to open for his show. So he took them off, so
right.
Those guys were all like trying to, outdo each
Yeah.
other on some level.
Right. Understandable. You don't want to fight off the enemy.
That must have been a hot show, though. I didn't make it to that particular tour because I don't think it ever played out in Los Angeles. Actually, it didn't make it there.
No, we didn't. Prince wasn't on a whole lot of the tour, but he was, on some dates. I really can't remember how many dates, but I don't remember him. He wasn't in LA as far as I think, as I can remember.
Now, there's rumors, legend has it, if you will, that Rick borrowed like a keyboard that Prince's band had been using and used it on like, I don't know if it was Superfreak or something. Or I don't know. Do you ever hear anything about that?
No, because we all had our own gear, and no, maybe it's just a little rumor, but no, I never heard anything about that,
What was the first time in the studio with the group?
First time in the studio was the Fired Up album. And that was a blast doing that. It was recorded in Sausalito. We rehearsed in Buffalo and then went to Sausalito. We basically had the outline of the tracks, and basically everything was put together, like the other albums also, through ideas we had in the studio or Rick had, and that's how basically everything came together. And he would write lyrics there while the rhythm track was down. He'd be writing lyrics, figuring out, the next lyric, the hook, and all this. So it was pretty much done on the spot on the recordings.
Did you guys rehearse a lot, or you just kind of figured it out a lot of times in the studio?
Yeah, pretty much. It was mainly in the studio where you got a better idea what was going on. That's the way it was. Like I said, we just had an outline of this tune and the basic riff of it or whatever, and it all came together in the studio.
Did some of the maybe jam sessions outside the studio, you come up with any ideas or riffs that were then brought into the studio?
Not really. No. It was, we all had ideas for parts and stuff, It really wasn't a whole lot of jamming, it just, like I said, just the basic outline of the tune.
And what about the arranging? Was that mostly Levi's doing, or Rick, or both? Or
it was all of us. I think we all had a part in it. We would lay down the basic track, and then there'd be overdub ideas, synthesizers or whatever, and there would be horns, and then a vocal track in the backgrounds. Just everything came in layers.
And would Rick typically do his vocals with you guys around, or not?
Basically, yeah, we were around sometimes. Most of the time after the the rhythm tracks were cut, I went home, and because we worked like mad dogs in the studio, like long sessions, into the wee hours in the morning, and that's kind of, it was a little bit of a burnout after a while.
Was there anyone in the group that just really, I mean, they were all good, but was there anybody in the group that like, you really were like, wow, this guy is something
Um,
on his instrument?
yeah, I think they all were, I guess Danny, the sax player, pretty much he was great talent.
Yeah,
Still,
he actually got name checked,
yeah,
Danny Blow.
yeah, right.
So yeah, that was a great album, although it didn't sell quite as much as I guess the previous couple, but it still was good. And I think for Secret Garden, was it that came after that? I'm not sure.
Garden of Love.
Garden of Love, yeah.
Yeah. That was an interesting album. He kind of took a different avenue as far as his writing, and I don't know. It didn't quite do as well as he would hoped, and the record company hoped, and then that's why it was like pretty imperative that he put out another album that was going to be a hit, and that's when we got together with Street Songs. He really relied on the band a lot on that one, coming up with ideas and parts and stuff, and it was just really awesome to get to stretch out that way, Yeah, that was a great album. It was a lot of fun to do.
That was an awesome album. I remember, I had followed him from the beginning, at least the beginning in terms of Come Get It. And, the successive albums, I mean, I don't think anyone was fully prepared for Street Songs, how strong that was just from front to back,
Right.
and just the variety and it was almost like a hits package. It was so strong.
Yeah, definitely. It was almost like a greatest hits album, I think, it was like, you got Love Gun, Give It To Me Baby, Superfreak, and it was just Mr. Policeman,
Get a Life. Love Get a Life.
Yeah, just a lot of good stuff,
So could you sense at the time, wow, this one is something special?
Not really, no. But we had an idea as the album was getting close to being finished. We knew we had something, It just turned out to be a bigger success than we'd ever dreamed of,
Is it true, Tom, that Superfreak was sort of a goof?
I don't know if it was a goof. It was Oscar and I came up with the line. And I was thinking more of like a Devo type of thing to get more mainstream, more popular type of route to go with that tune. But it wasn't a goof. I guess it was a lucky goof if it was,
Yeah, I mean, I got the sense like wanting to try something with like a little new wave flavor to it,
Right.
but thinking, okay, let's just do it and see what happens. And then it just took off,
Right. Yeah. People just dug it, You can hear him singing out in the audience every time the tune came up, he would the microphone to the audience. You can hear them all singing like they knew the words, and it was a pretty awesome scene.
Even though you had done that Coliseum show, I don't think there was a tour that was like the Street Songs tour, because that was like something, all those arenas and coast to coast, and that must have been pretty grueling.
Yeah, it was actually really a lot of fun, to play to sold out crowds, every night, 2 or 3 nights in a row at a venue. And yeah, it was pretty awesome, very awesome.
And, the records kept coming though. I mean, you must have been exhausted because, if you weren't doing Rick's or on tour, you were doing the Stone City Band records or helping Teena or some of the other acts,
Right.
What was behind doing the Stone City Band albums? When did you become aware that there's going to be that opportunity? And what was your impression of that experience?
Let's see, we recorded the first album, In and Out, right after, I think, Fired Up. And then it was kind of cool. It was different. Rick had a lot to do with it, a lot of in control of the album and stuff. I don't really remember too many tunes on that record. It didn't do that well. Actually, none of the three of them really did a whole lot, But the next album we did, he let us have more freedom, and it was a lot of fun doing that, because it was our album, and he gave us a lot of leeway on it.
So you're talking about Meet the Stone City Band, Out from the Shadow?
Yeah, right. That one.
Yeah, that one was fun because of the like Beatles like cover, and,
right. Yeah. That was his idea. It was like a pretty nice idea,
Did you feel like Motown were they behind it, or just
I don't know. I don't know. I really can't say if they were or not, but I got the feeling they were not, Maybe.
Did you guys get to do any of the material like opening for any of the Rick James shows?
Yeah, we did. We did. Actually, we had a half-hour set or 20-minute set or something like that. And yeah, we did a few of our tunes off the albums, just set up. And then Teena came on and Rick came on.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, a lot of playing.
And you also were on sessions for Mary Jane Girls?
Yeah. He had that's a concept he had, and that went over real well. And that was a lot of fun to do, because it still had our brand on the music,
Well, it's been called, of course, punk funk and these different terms, but what would you say were the signature elements of that Rick James Stone City Band sound? Because it definitely was identifiable, as you're just saying, with the Mary Jane Girls and whoever it was.
Yeah, it's a hard question, and wow, I have to think about that one. Probably just to like a lot of mix with a little bit of rock, a little bit of funk, a little bit of soul, a little bit of a lot of things, I think a little bit of jazz,
And I guess Rick brought something unique and special to it because, it definitely had its own flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was definitely its own sound,
Were you aware of all of Rick's, backstory before he hit it big with Come Get It, that he had been, working with, or recording with Neil Young and all that background of the Minor Birds and all that stuff in Canada? Where were you of all that?
Not too much aware until after, like a long while afterwards. I knew it when what's his name came over to the house. Lead singer for Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, came over to the house, and that's when I found out like he worked with him and the Minor Birds and all that, and that's when I found out that he had that background, because I knew he had like a rock interest in his background, because he liked a lot of different music, jazz, whatever, classical. He would listen to it all. He had a good interest in everything.
Yeah, I was like to say, I think that the best funk comes from having other influences like that, like rock or some jazz or whatever it is, just bringing it together and giving it its unique sound. Like was the, would you say it's the Stone City sound, or what would you call that sound?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I would call it the Stone City sound. Sure. Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, it's definitely our sound.
And how much would you, solo more in concert, or how much would you extend things on stage compared to in the studio?
It was just kind of like a spur of the moment thing, It was kind of like it just kind of happened, I don't know. Where you just kind of like get on that groove and you just go for it, It seems to work.
Would you say Rick was a taskmaster, more like a James Brown type, or was he more loosey goosey, like a George Clinton type, or somewhere in between? Or
yeah, probably in between. Definitely quite a performer. Yeah, it was just nothing. Nothing can really compare him. With the energy he had on stage and what he brought to the show.
what might be one or two of your favorite records that you guys did?
Probably, as I would say, street songs, obviously, and Throwing Down was pretty good also. That record.
Yeah, So Hard to Get. That was a great
Right,
one.
right.
Yeah. What about individual tracks?
Individual, When Your Love Is Gone on the Fire It Up album. Probably because my solo, I kind of like was happy the way it came out,
So that's one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. That's all I can think of at the moment. I loved everything we did,
Were you around for the Eddie Murphy session?
Just for the video.
Oh, was that a blast?
Yeah, it was, it was kind of cool. We did that in New York and yeah, it was pretty awesome, seeing Eddie, because you see him on Saturday Night Live and all that, and he sang pretty good too,
Well, he did those James Brown impersonations, so you knew he could carry a tune on some level,
right.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that Standing on the Top with the Temps too is actually one of my favorite Rick James tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a ball. We did the rhythm track. I think it was in Sausalito, and then I don't know where they did the vocals, but I remember the video. That was pretty cool. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, making some history.
Yeah.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.